Morning everyone. Welcome back to 10th class Social Studies. We were discussing about national liberation movements in colonies and we completed discussing about how China got liberated from the colonial masters, and in the previous module we discussed about Vietnam. So we have completed how the Vietnamese people or the Vietnam as a nation has been brought under the control of French colonial masters, and how the French government exploited the financial resources of Vietnam. And we have seen the French government decided to civilize the people from Vietnam, and the civilization can be brought up only through popularizing education. So education always liberates. As we know, education liberates the people, or education enlightens the people. So the French government wanted to popularize the education, but at the same time they wanted to make sure that the people from Vietnam are not enlightened or they are not liberated through education. So for that purpose, they have taken a decision to provide the primary education through the medium of Vietnamese language and the higher education only through the medium of French language. So they can make a kind of translators in between the French colonial masters and the Vietnamese local people by providing education to the people through Vietnam, so that there will be a small group of people who could understand the French and who can converse with the French nationals. That was their initial plan. But the plans are being made by someone, and the execution of the plans will be with someone. And here about the education, the primary education was decided to be executed through Vietnamese language. And in order to educate the people through Vietnamese language, compulsory the Vietnamese teachers should be there. And no guarantee these teachers are associated with all the ill effects of colonialism. Even though the textbooks of the French government, what were provided or presented for educating the people from Vietnam, glorified the French colonial activities in Vietnam, the teachers from the Vietnam, they did not follow the same things what is written in the book. They opposed, they rebelled, and they even did not follow the textbook as it is written. And when something is written against the spirit of their national movement or the nationalism, if something is written in the book which questions the existence and the legacy of the Vietnamese people, the teachers questioned it. And when the teachers are questioning, or when the teachers are opposing the things that is written in the text, automatically that opposition mind will be imbibed with the people, those who are attending the classes. So in the primary classes, the teachers, they just made the people from Vietnam with a mindset to question the injustices from the part of the French governance. And the teachers, they played a very vital role in bringing up the national spirit among the people of Vietnam. They questioned and they modified the text and even opposed the text that is written, which is just to glorify the colonial activities of France in Vietnam. And it was very difficult for the French government to control these activities because the primary education was carried out through Vietnamese language. And not all the French people or not all the members of the French administrative system that works in Vietnam were well versed with the Vietnamese language. So it was very difficult to control these things. And now the students started to fight, and they started to get the rights for the people. And even the educated people, they just felt that it is their duty to help, or it is their duty to fight for the society. So that is the best emancipation of education. Okay, once a person is getting educated, that education is not just for a single person, and he should make sure that his education helps the entire society. And that is what exactly happened in Vietnam. The people who got educated, they started their enlightenment, their knowledge, and their awareness. They started to use it for the benefit of other people from Vietnam. So, education for society. And we know that the higher education was presented only in French language, and they made sure that very little number of people are selected for the French higher education, so that the white collar jobs or the influential jobs were reserved for certain categories, and all these were injustices, those were opposed. So the education just liberated the people, and the education made the people to oppose this kind of injustices. And these questioning from the part of the educated Vietnamese were opposed by the French, and the Vietnamese elites who supported the French, because this questioning or this nationalization, it can bring an end to the French colonialism, and these Vietnamese nationals who were supporting the French. So these two group of people opposed the national spirit from the part of the Vietnamese. And by 1920, political organizations were coming up in different parts of Vietnam. And one of very prominent political organization was the party of Young Annam. Annam is a province in Vietnam. So a political party of Young Annam. And they just established a magazine called Annamese Student. And through that through that journal, the party and organizers just popularized their ideas. They just exposed the injustices of the French government that is being meted to the people of Vietnam. And it is the same time, 1910 to 1920, that is a time that Republican revolution happens in China. We studied earlier. Sun Yat-sen, who formed a Republican government in China, it just inspired the people of Vietnam. If Chinese can do that kind of a revolution and to establish a republic, why can't we? That was a question. And they also expected to have such a form of government. And now the people or the students from Vietnam started moving to China, Japan, France and USSR in order to get educated. And in these countries, the modern education based on liberty, socialism, equality, all these kind of modern ideas were exposed to the people from Vietnam. And here comes the 1930, the Great Depression. That has just affected the entire world. We already discussed about the Great Depression in the previous chapters. And the Great Depression was an economic slowdown that just affected the entire world. A very limited number of countries were exempted, or they were excluded from the clutches of this Great Depression. So Vietnam was not an exception. It was under the ill effects of Great Depression. All the products of Vietnam, major products of Vietnam were rubber and rice. The price fell sharply. So the major product of Vietnam, its price has been fell sharply. So automatically the people who were associated with this kind of business, they just met with a lot of losses. Rural debt, the people were forced to take the loans. Rural debt and unemployment. So two important things. And we know that whenever the people faces some kind of social and economic slowdowns in the society, the first institution that they will be blaming is the government. And here there is no change for that. They started blaming the government, and they started organizing themselves against the government. They started uprising against the government. So these kind of social uprisings, the popular uprisings, were brutally controlled by the French government. You see, the French government even used the fighter jets or the planes to drop bomb on these demonstrators. That was the situation in Vietnam by 1930. And at the same time, Ho Chi Minh, a very popular and a very charismatic leader from Vietnam, just like Mao Zedong and Sun Yat-sen in China, Ho Chi Minh. He has been comes up as a very prominent leader of Vietnam. And by that time, there were many political organizations, many nationalistic organizations were in Vietnam, but there were no coordination. And he has just brought up that coordination to all the national movements of Vietnam. And he even made up Vietnamese Communist Party, Vietnam Cong Sang Dang, or Indo-China Communist Party. That was established. And it just brought up the people together. And again in 1940, Japan attacked Vietnam and Japan occupied Vietnam. So Japan did not attack and occupied Vietnam. Japan attacked France. And Vietnam was occupied by Japan. And it was 1940, it is the period of Second World War. And as part of their imperial expansion, Japan attacked the French. French was defeated. It was already weak because they were attacked by Adolf Hitler. And the French government was easily defeated by Japan, and it has been brought under the control of Japan. The Vietnam has been brought under the control of Japan. Now the Vietnamese people wanted to fight both against Japan and France. Okay, so the beginning we said that Vietnam against two colonizers, the French and the Japan. So the League for Independence of Vietnam, an organization was established. The League for Independence of Vietnam, Vietnam Doc Lap Doc Min, which is popularly known as Viet Minh. It started fighting against Japan from 1940 to 1945. And in August 1945, Democratic Republic of Vietnam was established and Ho Chi Minh became its chairman. So immediately after becoming the chairman of Democratic Republic of Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh and his government, Viet Minh government, has taken certain earth-shattering decisions, or the popular decisions, the decisions what the people of Vietnam were expecting all these years. 25% of land rent were cancelled. All of a sudden, 25% of the land rent, it was cancelled. And already all the secondary rents were cancelled. And all arrears, means the old balances were just cleared. And said that they will be redistributing central lands and the land from the traitors, the people, the Vietnamese people who supported the French. So those land will be confiscated and redistributing to the people of Vietnam. Certain very popular decisions. That just made Ho Chi Minh little more popular. And he was already popular, and he was the undisputed popular leader of Vietnam. But his, again, this kind of decisions has made Ho Chi Minh as the most popular leader of Vietnam. So a new republic was established in Vietnam, but it faced with many challenges. 1945, the World War entered, and all the countries who were participating in the World War, they were facing with the very grave economic situations. And French too had the same kind of economic situations. In order to come up from the economic slowdown of France, they decided, or they realized, that it will be possible only by bringing this Vietnam under their control again, so that they can get income from Vietnam. So for that purpose, they tried to recapture the Vietnam. And they have brought up their fight by bringing Ba Bo Dai, who belongs to the old dynasty. And he has been brought up as the leader of Vietnam by French. And they started a war. War lasted for around 8 years, and at last, French government or the French army was defeated at Din Bin Bu, and the places and the names are little strange. As we know, the names from China, the Vietnamese names also in the same way. So Din Bin Bu is the name of a place, and there the French army was defeated by Vietnamese army. Around 16,000 people from French army was arrested, and they became the prisoners of war. And after the war, a peace negotiations were carried out in Geneva. And as part of that, the peace negotiations carried out at Geneva by the world countries, the world leaders, they just imposed a decision of dividing the Vietnam into two, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. North Vietnam was given under the leadership of Ho Chi Minh, the Viet Minh, and the South Vietnam was given under the control of an old emperor. And that old emperor was soon ousted by a man called Ngo Dinh Diem. Ngo Dinh Diem immediately ousted that old emperor from South Vietnam, and South Vietnam has been brought under Ngo Dinh Diem. And he was an authoritarian. He established an authoritarian government who just did not care about the opposition, and all the opposition parties were suppressed. Smaller opposition parties were there. All those smaller opposition parties were suppressed by this Ngo Dinh Diem's authoritarian government. So at last, with the help of Viet Minh and Ho Chi Minh, a broad opposition has been brought up under National Liberation Front, NLF. So at the same time, in northern Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Minh governments, they followed certain popular policies or the popular decisions. And in the beginning, they just followed a soft policy, that 25% of reduction in the lances and the cancellation of all arrears and all those kind of situations were carried as it is. And even the fact about the estate owners who were sympathizing to the French were retained in the beginning, but from 1954 onwards the situation started changing. They started confiscating the land from these traitors. Traitors means the Vietnamese traitors means the Vietnamese who sided with the Japan or France. So their lands were confiscated, and those lands were started to be redistributed among the landless peasants of Vietnam. So the age-old dreams of the landless people of Vietnam is coming to an end, and they became the landowners. Okay, and at the same time, you see, Ho Chi Minh, he established a political party, Indo-Chinese Communist Party, communism. So communism was always opposed by America. So America did not like to have a country in Asia which supports communism. So America decided to attack Vietnam. So about American entry into the war with Vietnam, we will discuss in the next module. Okay, thank you.